Are you losing listings without even knowing it? That's the topic, and that's the question I put out there for a lot of agents here, not only in the Capital District, but we have a lot of people on today live. I'm already looking at some from Texas. I see a Florida, 2 people, 3 people from Florida. I see a couple people from Milwaukee. So there's definitely have a good crowd on here today, and wanted to make sure that you guys understood what we were trying to do here today, which is really to get you guys thinking outside of the box a little bit. You know, I was talking to an agent the other day who's like, you know, I never use listing presentations. I don't need listing presentations. I have 15+ year in real estate, and you know, I just never really used one. And I asked him, I said, did you ever lose any listing appointments? He goes, oh yeah, I lost them. And I said, well, you know, what was the reason? Some were just, they went with someone else. He never even asked why. You always want to do that, right? You always want to call them and say, hey, to better my business in the future, what can I have done different to earn your business? But a lot of the conversations that I had with him was that it was more about value. He wasn't presenting any value. He was more of a commodity, right? He was just in there to say, here's what I can do for you as far as the price I think your home should sell for, and here's my commission, and let's do business with each other, right? I've been in business a long time, and just come work with me. And I think that's a very good approach if you have a big database, right, and you have a lot of referrals that you get. It's a lot easier to do that. And I know there's a lot of successful agents, and I see here on this call, that only work by referral, and it's very easy for them. They don't need to really go in with a listing presentation. They just go in with a couple different items. They'll come in with their CMA. They may come in with a company brochure, and you know, the people are going to already list with them. But I will tell you that, and especially now, especially in the Capital District, because we're so competitive in such a seller's market, that these agents are being more competitive and they're being more aggressive on getting these listings. And people are not just interviewing one agent, they're interviewing multiple agents. And you want to make sure that you're setting yourself apart from the competition, right? So that's what I wanted to do this call. We had a lot of interest, a lot of strategy calls that I've been doing. A lot of people have been saying that big thing for them is not having a listing presentation. And some had talked about buyer presentation, which we'll do in the future here. But I wanted to really focus today on the listing presentation. And I know a couple weeks ago, I did some training on the 14-step listing process. And then we came to that one block where it said listing presentation, and we didn't put it on there because it's a whole other call. And that's why we're doing it right now. But I wanted to go over some high-level stuff with you today. Feel free to take pictures of anything that you see on here. You just make sure you take Miranda out of it, use it for yourself. I don't care. A lot of this stuff that's on here is stuff that, again, is just to give you ideas on how to really structure your listing presentation. And I've been doing this almost 30 years now. And I've been on, I was trying to figure out how many listing appointments I actually was on. It's really hard to measure that if you haven't been counting from day one. But it's definitely not been thousands, but it's definitely over 1,000. So it's been hundreds of listing appointments that I've been on. And there's been a lot of mistakes that I made along the way. A lot of different things that I wish I could have done different. But again, having that conversation with that seller, you know, what would make the difference for you to pick me versus someone else? And I learned a lot of different things, right? Sometimes early on it was experience. That person had more experience. That person was well known in the neighborhood. That person was referred by someone else that had a stronger relationship in that trust, that know, like, and trust factor is already automatic on that referral. And the National Association of Realtors put out some stats out there that I think you guys should know. It talked about a question that they sent out to listings and to sellers. And what it said on there, it said, what was the deciding factor on you selecting an agent to list your home? And I ask that question all the time. You know, what do you think the percentage was that said they picked that agent because of the company that they were associated with? And everyone gives me all kinds of numbers, from 50, 60% to 10% to 5%. But the answer is 3%, right? If you go to the buyer and seller profiles for NAR, you'll see that less than 3% or less said it was because of the company that were affiliated is why they went with that agent. 97% was all about that agent's reputation, about the value that agent showed, about the education that agent provided. So again, we talk about this all the time. If you want to attract more sellers, you want to attract more buyers, educating them is how you attract those buyers and sellers. So again, I'm going to keep this high level for you. And if there's anything on here, we will have copies of this. It's on the private Facebook page, so you guys know about that. I'll actually have Trish give you that information here at the end. or actually throw it in the comments so you can get a link to the private Facebook page where all of these recordings will be and all the documentation on there as well. So I wanted to start off by just a quick thing I wanted to bring up here. Why listings, right? Like why do we want listings? It's crazy to me when I hear agents say, I hate listings. I don't want to take listings or be involved in listings. I say, why? And it's usually because they don't want to disappoint the seller, right? They overprice the home, it's sitting there, and the seller's getting upset with them, that type of thing. The confrontation's there. Where buyers, it's a little bit easier for them. But listings are definitely something I learned this, early on, and I know a lot of you have been around for a long time, heard this before. You need to have listings to last, right? You need to list to last. And it's so true. And let's face it, you can leverage your time so much better by having listings, have 10 listings versus working with 10 active buyers. But let me just show you this document real quick here. And this is just a document that we use internal, why listings are important, right? And again, I'm just gonna go over real quick, right? It gives you more exposure. It's a marketing vehicle, should produce another buyer for you if you market it correctly, but you can leverage your time more efficiently when you're using and when you're working with listings versus buyers. How do you obtain those listings, right? That's a whole other class, right? But there's lead generation and prospecting, personal referrals, and for sale by owners and farming and all the other things, for sale by owners, expired listings. I mean, you name it, everything works. Cold calling, door knocking, all that stuff works. But again, that's how you get listings. As far as what you send to them prior to an appointment, right? That's also important. Sending them information about yourself. We actually send them out a blue book. I don't know if you guys can see this on the screen, but I have a blue box that we actually send this information out. Inside of it, we have all kinds of supporting documents. We have a seller workbook in here. We have testimonials in here. We have information on me. We have information on marketing. It's all in here, a nice hardcover book that we have either FedEx or dropped off to the home prior to the appointment. So that's our listing packet that we send out. We don't put the CMA in there because we want that cost market analysis for when we sit with them, but a lot of the information's in there, whether it be an RPR or just information about our company. Testimonials, evidence of success, like I mentioned on the video before, is so important. What do we do on listing appointments? And that's what I want to just go over with you real quick. I talked about the 14-step listing process. Again, I'm going to keep this high level, guys, because we went over this 2 weeks ago. But obviously be on time, right? There's a lot of times where I got the listing because I was on time or if I was a little bit early. Some agents just show up 15, 20 minutes late. It really ticked off the sellers. And they've actually said to me, I'm really upset with that person. That person showed up half hour late or 20 minutes late, or even missed the appointment, right? And decided to come later, not thinking that the seller had something to do. And it was really upsetting to them. So that's happened where an actual agent forgets that they have an appointment, don't even show up. So being on time is so important. Knocking on that door, shaking hands, yes, shaking hands, introducing yourself. Always ask to remove your shoes and where you can set up your either your laptop or your tablet or whatever you have or any of your supporting documents. Where can you set that up? Don't just make yourself at home. And the asking of the shoes to be removed, that's a courtesy. And a lot of times people won't or feel funny about asking you to take your shoes off, and then you just start walking around with your wet feet or muddy boots or whatever you have. It can really upset them, and I've seen that happen too. Turn on your laptop, get your presentation ready, make a little small talk with them. After that, ask the seller for a quick tour, and always bring a notepad, whether it's a little notepad like this or it's a big notepad that you have. Always make sure that you're going in and walking through that home with a notepad. Don't have your hands in your pocket and just walk around. Make sure that you're taking notes. I lost a listing because of that, because she said, and she did. She had probably 15 different updates that she had. And the agent that went took the notes. I didn't. I walked around with my hands in my pocket, just saying, "Oh, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice." Well, guess what? I didn't get the listing. And she said, "I just thought the other person was more interested because they actually took notes on all the improvements that we did." So mental note to myself was never to do that again. Number 5, speaking of mental notes, keep all negative selling points to yourself. You don't want to get there 5 minutes into the presentation or through the walkthrough, and you're already beating them up about, commercial exposure on the side, or, the smells of the house, or the paints, or, the outdated kitchen and baths. Don't get into all those things. Write a little comment for yourself, chicken scratch, put it in short form, whatever you have to do. And that's something that you bring up later in the presentation once you build that rapport with them. Right here, compliment them on the condition of the home instead. Brian Buffini did a whole skit on that years ago where I remember him going through and saying, oh, hey, nice kitchen, you know, beautiful room, great color, whatever. Not that you want to make it up, but, you know, like Brian Buffini said, we are in sales. So you want to compliment them on their home and let them know, you know, that they have a great home and it's definitely going to sell, right? And then from there, you can establish a little bit in that talk and that conversation when you sit down with them, ask them the question, you know, what's the timetable here? What's your goal here? What are you trying to improve? Do you need to sell first before you buy? Are you buying first before you sell? Some of this stuff you'll talk on the phone, but you just want to kind of rehash that in that appointment. And from there, that's where we go into the segment and into the listing presentation. That's where we kind of left off in that one class. I mean, we did finish how to price homes and do the rest of the steps on here, which is basically waiting to do the CMA after your listing presentation, right? Explaining what's active, pending, and closed, and the reason for that. Only selecting about 4 or 5 comparables to show them so you don't confuse them. And then asking for the close, right? And never giving them the price. That was the other big thing. Always give them a range, never give them the price first. So feel free to take a picture of that if you want so that you have that. But this is something that, again, over the years, it's been changed and updated and moved around, and agents now that have used this and follow this format have been very successful on getting listings to the closing table, right? So we're going to talk about the listing presentation today. And one thing I wanted to say, well, we'll bring that up on price after on the listing presentation. So let me go ahead and jump into this listing presentation for you now. And hopefully you can see it here on your screen. It's showing me that you are. So this is our listing presentation, right? So we just went through all that. We built rapport, we're sitting down with them, we did a tour of the home, everything looks great. Now we're just going right into the listing presentation. And this is where, like I said on the video yesterday, why is that important? You know, what is involved in having that listing presentation is that you need to really establish who you are. You know, why are you capable, or why are you the person that I should be listing with? Why go with you versus the 4,000 real estate agents that we have in the Capital District, or in the 17,000 agents that we have in Naples, Florida, right? Some of my agents down there that are on the call right now. You have to set yourself apart. So I like this screen as an icebreaker. And I tell them, I say, you know, this is the big 3. These are the things that we always look at and want to talk to you about. That these are, we feel, the biggest thing that are going to get your home sold fast for top dollar and with the least amount of hassle is these 3 things. And the first thing is condition. And we talk about that. The condition is so important. You know, we just walked through your house. You have a beautiful home, and you know, the condition is great. You pointed out a couple things that you wanted to do as far as moving some furniture around and maybe painting, you know, the garage door or something like that. But other than that, the condition of your home is beautiful. You did the updates in the bathroom and the kitchen. The roof's done. So I see no problem there, right? So that's a good thing. It's ready for show. The second piece, and that's why you hire top real estate agents like myself, is to get as many eyeballs on your property as possible. And that's through marketing. And I'm going to share some of the information with you on marketing here in my presentation. But I want to make sure that I share with you exactly what we're going to do to get your home sold and get as many buyers to see your property right away. And then the third piece is probably the most important piece, is price. And we want to make sure that we price your home correctly so that when we put it out there on the market, it's not sitting out there or becomes a stale listing and actually buyers think something's wrong with it because it's sitting on the market too long. We want to make sure that we price that, and I want to show you exactly what our pricing strategy is. All right, so if you're okay with it, I'd like to go ahead and share with you what our marketing is. And 99% of the time, they're like, great. You control the interview, right? Sometimes I've sat there where people have said to me, and you guys have been on a lot of listings, know what I'm talking about. As soon as you sit down at the table, like, all right, what do you think it's worth? And we go, oh, well, let me grab my CMA and, hey, well, here's this house sold and that house sold, right? And then you're into the CMA. And then if you come up with a number they don't like, now you say, well, let me switch now and show you my marketing. You're done. They're not even listening to you from that point on. So make sure you follow that process. Is always talk about the marketing first, then leave the pricing for last. So what are we doing? Again, I'm keeping this high level. So if you want to take pictures of it, you're more than welcome to do that. We talk about our vision of our company, right? To assist the best agents in our region, build and maintain a profitable and successful business within a business while making an enjoyable experience for our clients. So sometimes, you know, we have conversations about that. Sometimes we don't. And remember, when you're going on these listing appointments, you know, you have to size up that consumer in the first 2 minutes, right? Coming through that door. You need to know if they're a high D buyer or seller, I should say, high D personality type, or are they a high C personality? And I'm not going to get into disc training with you guys today, but a lot of you know what that is. High D is dominant. They just want, give me the number, how much you're going to charge me, how much is my home worth, and we're out the door, right? We want to get this thing wrapped up in 5-10 minutes. Where high C personality is more compliant. They're more the type that's going to do research. They want to know every little thing, like, how did you come up with this vision statement? And, you know, what does this, you know, mean for me as the consumer? Like, they'll go deeper on those type of things. So just be prepared for that. The other thing you need to be prepared for is that if you're a high D, you have to slow it down a little bit to match those personalities so that you're on the same level with that person. And if you're a high C personality, you have to match with a high D as well to make sure that you know you have to go through these quickly. I talk a little about our background, right? When I started in the business, when our company opened, I talk about what our goal was. I talk about, you know, obviously where we're based. I talk a little bit about our, you know, our offices. I talk a little bit about our Florida team. I just keep it high level, keep going through, you know, 130 agents, 17 full-time staff members, and I go over those things with them. And again, I have to know what my audience is. If the audience is like into it and they want to know this stuff and they don't know who I am, I want to go a little deeper on it. If they know who I am, their referral, their high D personality, I'm just going, hey, here's a little background on me. And I even say that in the beginning. I said, listen, I'm going to cut a lot of the sales stuff out. I'm just going to give you some high level things. Is that okay? Oh yeah, thank God. Yeah, I don't want to be here for an hour and a half listening to this. So this is good information for you to have. We go over our promise, right? Our brand promise. I talk a little about the books that I wrote, one on buying a home in the Capital District, what every person needs to know about selling a home in the Capital District, and then we have one for real estate agents. And just give them some background again, you know, how long I've been in the business, how many homes that we've sold to date. You know, I throw in there if you have any accolades. You know, I was Realtor of the Year in 2022 for GCAR. Any of those little things help you as you move forward. And if you don't have those, because I know there's some newer agents on the call today, then use those of your company, right? Sometimes the company won best places to work or different awards and that type of thing. You can definitely use that. Or if your broker has a book that they wrote, or if your broker has different things like that, utilize that as well. There's information on my brother Brian. You know, I let him know he's the vice president, chief operating officer. He handles more of the inside stuff. I'm more of the outside stuff. So we put that on there. We also put our team. Again, I don't go through every one because I tend to be a little bit high D, high I personality. I don't want to go through every one of these. But I do let them know that these are people that are full-time W-2 employees, and all of them know about what's going on with your property as soon as we hit the market, because everyone has a piece in a role in getting your home sold, right? So we let them know we have marketing, we have, you know, listing specialists, we have social media, you know, you name it, we go through it. We talk about our atmosphere, some of the different things that we do and how we do things in the community. We have our Florida team here that we just had, actually that was just this week. We're at Topgolf. We talked about some of our events that we do every year, that we support the local Capital Region realtors in education, just like on this call right now, and our Success Summit that we do every year. Go over some client testimonials. We put that in there. That's my old picture. Yes, that's 2015. I do have a new one. I think you guys already saw that. And then I have videos. I'm not going to play the videos now, but if you could see, and just fast forward here, you can see the videos talking about certain clients. See? So that's really easy to do. If you can get a client that will actually do a video, send a videographer. They all do them great. Elizabeth Hayes, I believe. No, she didn't do this one, but Elizabeth Hayes is good. Mary Coons is really good. A lot of these different videographers, you just give them 10 questions to go out to your client's home. You don't even have to go. Just say, hey, would you mind doing a video? Can I send my videographer out there? And they could do a video like this. And this has been powerful, especially on certain listing presentations where maybe a couple was a little bit older, or you know, they're going through where they lived somewhere for 40 years and now they have to move out of the state. I play this one right away because I know they're talking about their move from Clifton Park down to Florida and how the transition, we were able to take care of everything, right? So that was a good testimonial. Then I have another testimonial with luxury in Niskayuna, where we sold her $1.5 million home, how we were able to sell it right away, and 3 other realtors weren't able to do that. They actually did the video and had that conversation, and I use that piece of marketing. So you can use that in your presentation. We talk a little about, from 2002 to present. And again, we're just trying to establish, just give me your company stats. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be your stats. But we're just trying to show them that we're not just a, 2-3 deal type of person a year, real estate company or real estate agent. We actually have sold a lot. We have the experience to get your home sold. Talk to them about charity. This is big too. I didn't think it was. And an agent out of California was doing this, and I started doing it many years ago. And it's so true, where people identify, like, hey, you know what? I'm a heart donor, or I had a heart donor that was donated to me, or I have something on here with cancer. A lot of that, my mom is a cancer survivor, and we contribute to that as well. So they connect with these things, right? I had Miss Shen softball and the football here because my kids were involved in it, and that's what we contribute to. So any local organizations that you do could just be one. Definitely put that in there. Let them know you do that. But here's where it gets going. Like, this is where you're educating your seller. Don't assume because they bought and sold a couple of houses that they know exactly what the process is. So this is just a one-pager, quick snapshot where I go over the seller, and they really appreciate this, because I'm like, some of the questions that they came up with when I asked them, give me your two or three things that I know you're interviewing other agents. What are you looking for in an agent? Right? A lot of times they'll say, well, we want to know what we should do to the house. Okay, I write that down. Then we want to know like what the price and the commission is. Okay, I write that down. And then they say, what the process, and what do we do first, second? Like, we don't really know. We need to sell this to buy, and what do I do? And that's where I say, hey, I got this roadmap I'm going to go over there to kind of paint the picture of what the process is going to be from A to Z. And I just go through it. Here's a listing. When we're on the appointment today, we have some paperwork we have to do, and then once the paperwork's done, we'll get the photos done, we'll get your sign installed. Then the staff goes ahead and launches this great seller plan. And in 3 days, we have 72 hours, we have your listing launched on the multiple listing, in all the websites and internet sites. And then showings begin. And here's how showings work. And we talk to them about, showing your house and having strangers in is a pain in the neck. It really is. Like, I'm going to be totally honest with you. It's something that is not comfortable. You feel people are judging you. Sometimes people get emotional about it, and that's why you hired me, to take that emotions out and to give you top dollar for your home and keep it more to the numbers, right? And to guide you through it. So don't get upset if someone says something in a feedback or anything like that. I'm going to help you with that. But then once you get an offer and we get a contract, title search is going to be done. It's going to go to the attorney. Then mortgage is going to be underwritten if they have a loan on the property. Appraisal is ordered 4 or 5 weeks down the road. And then from there, we schedule inspections. Attorney approval gets done. And then we're going to review I'm sorry, I went the opposite way. I'm like, why are we going backwards? Sorry about that, guys. 7 through 8 is going the other way. All right. Review and accept the offer, attorney approval, schedule inspections, order appraisals, underwriting, and then title search. And then we're going to go right into clear to close, do a final walkthrough, and then we have our closing day. So as simple as that. And I'm probably missing 12, 13, 14, and 15. So there's 15 steps there, but because we transferred from Canva, I lost those numbers on this one. So, but you guys get the format, right? You're walking them through the actual timeline of exactly what's going to happen. And I let them know sometimes, and I share stories with them that, just because we got through attorney approval period doesn't mean we're out of the woods yet. We got to get through these inspections. And then from there, we got to make sure that the mortgage and the appraisal comes through, because, we just sold for multiple offers for 50,000 more than ask. We might have an appraisal issue. So we don't know until we get that done. And that could be 5, 6 weeks down the road, right? So you're going through all of these different expectations, if you would, with them, and they really do appreciate it. And a lot of them refer back to this throughout the transaction with them. And then I go through, what are some of the reasons why people may not go back to their prior agent? And usually it was because of poor communication, promised to sell their price for, far from reality. They didn't market their property correctly. They didn't help stage the home for sale, right? Now, this goes on and on, right? But what I'm doing here is I'm trying to point out to them, here are all the reasons why people wouldn't go back to their prior agent, because they didn't have these systems and processes in place. But now I'm going to show you my marketing presentation that does, right? And from this conversation, I'll have people shake their heads like, yeah, one guy said we can get this number, and it was way too high, but we did it, and it expired 6 months later, right? Or they said they were going to do all this marketing, and then I never talked to the guy again. I was talking to his secretary or his admin person, and I never talked to that agent again. So you hear a lot of these stories from this sheet here. Then we talked about showing time, right? A lot of you, it's funny. I had an agent say to me, "Well, I loved your listing presentation, but it's not going to work for me." And I go, "Well, why?" And he says, "We don't have showing time in our MLS, so I really can't use it." I'm like, "Well, take it out. You can hide the slide or use whatever you guys use there. But again, you need to customize this for yourself. But we all have showing time, right? But this consumer, the seller, doesn't really know how it works. So I like to explain it to them on what it is. And I let them know it's feedback on your property. It's 24/7. We can see exactly what the buyer is thinking of your home. You'll receive some stats on it as well. We'll let the agents know, like when we do a price reduction through this service, right? So all of these things on there, and I actually show them a report, let them know, here's what one looks like. Here's the questions, how they were interested in the property, what they thought about the showing, what they thought about the price, right? We go through that, and I let them know, and I set the expectation to say that, hey, this is kind of coming to you in real time. I have nothing to do with what they're saying here, but let's take this information, take the emotions out, and really look to see if it is a problem. Is there a smell in a basement, right? This one lady got upset because they said it smelled like smoke in the garage. Well, guess what? Her husband kept sneaking cigarettes in the garage. And I even said it through the walkthrough towards the end when we built a little report, hey, you may not want to smoke out here in the garage. I can kind of smell a little smoke in the garage. Well, he kept doing it and came up on the showing, and she was upset. And you know how that goes, right? Who won there? Marketing your home. So that's where we get into the marketing side, right? We talked about condition, marketing, and price. Here's the marketing, and I'm just going through. 97% of home buyers search online, right? It's not the Harmon Homes magazine anymore, guys, right? It's not the Daily Gazette that people are going in to find homes. It's online. They're going online, and that's where 97% of buyers go. We give them some stats here from NAR. Shows where all buyers, 51% come from the internet, 28% are from realtor to realtor contact. Open houses are 7%, neighbors 6%, home builder, right? But look at Home Magazine, it doesn't even exist anymore. Paper newspaper doesn't even exist. So we want to let them know that. And here's why. This has helped me a couple times where people are like, I want you to, someone's going to buy this home for an overpriced price. And it's going to be someone from New York City. I just know it. They just love it up here. This is a steal. You guys get it all the time, right? I want you to put it in the Wall Street Journal and down in the New York Times because I know that's where our buyer is from. So it really helps you eliminate some of those conversations there. But then we also show that we have broker reciprocity with all of these other companies, right? Coldwell Banker, Howard Hanna, Keller Williams, Berkshire Hathaway, all great companies, right? All great companies, and then we work with all of those agents, and we put your listing on there as well because we have broker reciprocity. So I explain that. Why do I put that on there? Because I lost years ago, back in early 2000. If you guys remember, you've been around that long. I think I see Mike Kiefrader on here. Hey, Mike. Mike remembers when realtyusa.com came out on their signs. Everyone started going to realtor.com because Zillow wasn't around, realtor.com wasn't around. So everyone went to realtyusa.com. And that's where they would find their information. They loved it. So they wanted to be on that site. So I went on a listing appointment. She loved everything I had to say. She was interviewing a couple other agents. I knew I had it in the bag, and I called her and she says, Willie, we just loved everything you had, but we really wanted to be on that realtor.com, realtyusa.com website. And I said, well, you will be. And she goes, oh, really? I didn't know that, but I already listed with the other person. So I said, well, that's not going to happen anymore. So that's where this slide was invented. From that realtyusa.com loss that I got there. So I think they're owned by Howard Hanna now. So, but that's how you have to explain it. People don't know, don't assume. Same thing with relocation. We have global relocation now through leading real estate companies in the world. We've had it now for 8 years. It's a great company. It outperforms a lot of the other relocation companies that are out there. So we have a video on that. I'm not going to play it, but we have a video on that for someone that's relocating. I have our relocation director talking about relocation because this presentation, I can say it comes off the tip of my tongue because I've been on, like I said, hundreds of listing appointments. But sometimes when we have an agent that just started or is not as familiar with it, it's good for them to just play the video so that the video does it for them. So we go through what that relocation means to them, how it's going to help them, and how it's going to help them get more exposure by going through relocation. We also talk about our military heroes program, and we talk about how that works, and not only for military, but also for first responders, teachers, those type of things. We can do that and give them a rebate on their buying and selling commission based on using this program. We talk about professional photos, the importance of that. It kills me today to still see agents putting their cell phones and using those photos. I don't get it. You know, you got a $500,000 listing I saw that had cell phone photos. Just don't get it. But, you know, again, show them the difference of that, especially when you have 97% of people, buyers that go online first. They make their decisions a lot of time based on what they see in the photos. And if you have crappy photos, it's just not going to show as well, and it's going to discount the property and probably even discourage some buyers from looking at that property. So we talked to them about professional photos. We talked to them about the drone. We have professional video here, which again, I'm not going to play. You guys have seen these virtual tours before, where it's just videos of inside the home. It's not the pictures, it's an actual video that's being done through your videographer of the property, right? We have the sink going on, we have lights on, all that good stuff. You guys have seen those before, but we'll show them a picture of that. We'll show them our 3D Matterport for those of you that use Matterport, especially on some of those bigger homes. It's hard, right? It's hard to see a home. A buyer is hard to get perception of a home, especially if they're out of state and they can't go on a showing. Is that in the front of the house, the back of the house? What room is this? What room is that? There's just a bunch of pictures. So the 3D Matterport, I let them know that this is going to give them an actual walkthrough, just like we're walking through your property, where they can go and see every room. And I show them an example of it. I actually click on this on my presentation and show them, and they really love it, right? Most agents don't use it today, honestly, because of the cost, right? And they're like, why should I use 3D Matterport? I don't need it. Thing's going to sell in 3 days anyway. And I got to agree with you. A lot of times, you're right. By the time you get this back and it's all set up, the house is already pending and under contract, right? But as we shift into a more balanced market, into a buyer's market, you're going to need this type of marketing to get these homes sold and to have your home stand out, and also to let the seller know that you're doing everything you can to market this home as the best possible to get top dollar. We talk about virtual staging. Why is that? Right? It's proven that virtual staging is going to get you more showing. It's going to get you more money for your home. And we show them that here's an example of a before and after. Right? Here's an unstaged home. That's how it looks staged. Unstaged, virtually staged. And we show them that we don't want to be showing vacant photos of a home. Especially we had a situation where people sold it, went under contract, they moved out of state, and then the house fell through, and then we got an empty house. So we had to virtually stage it to bring it up to speed. We just had one in Niskayuna that's under contract. Actually, he's closing on Monday. That's a 1.5 listing as well. And that property, same thing. It was vacant. So we actually had a stager come in, and they did a great job staging it, and it made a huge difference. I mean, it made a difference on the photos, it made a difference on the showings, and people really got a good feel for what that property looked like. So I'm a big believer in staging. And yes, sometimes it's in the higher price points, but sometimes even some of your smaller homes deserve a good staging. Professional listing brochures. We go over the brochures. We go over, what we're going to do. Like, a brochure is not going to sell your house, right? But if a buyer's in town for the weekend and they go look at 10 properties, we want them to walk away with something that stands out, other than just a black and white MLS picture of the front of your house. We want to give them something. So we have this in a digital format, and we also have in a printed version, so that when that buyer comes in, we can send that listing agent the digital format so they can give it to their buyer, but also give them the print version when they come through the house. We talk about the brochure, what it looks like, why it's important. We talk about how we send out just listed cards for all of our listings. We want to send out just listed postcards in that area. A lot of times your neighbors have a daughter or a son or a friend or family member or a coworker that wants to live in that neighborhood. And I've had phone calls that come, and we can, like, this is in Niskayuna, right? We can send a postcard like this in Niskayuna, and I'm getting a call from Saratoga or from Albany. I'm like, where's this coming from? And it's because someone at work gave them the postcard, and they're calling for information on the property. We talk about social media platforms. This could be a whole other class too. But Facebook, you definitely have to be on Facebook. Use the boosted tool that's on there to get it out there. Let Facebook pick, right? Let Meta pick your audience and where it's going, and pick the area that you're going from, the radius that you want to go to, and then you put some interest in there, Zillow, Realtor.com, those type of things. So it's going after buyers. But we show the consumer that, right? Like, we're going to do all this type of social media marketing for you. Again, we want to get those people online. That's where these people are. And we don't know, because we treat every one of these social media platforms as like a different TV station, right? Think about it. Some people watch Fox, some people watch CNN, some people watch CBS, and it's all different audiences, right? Some are younger, some are older, different demographics. Same thing in social media. So we want to make sure that we get your home out on all those platforms, even TikTok. Look at that. And then we have a YouTube channel for all of our listings. We show them that. We show them our professional sold signs, not going to just be a little stick in the ground. We show them the importance of that, or sign riders, right? Open houses. I ask them, are you comfortable with an open house? A lot of people say, no, I'm not. A lot of people say, yeah, I don't care. I just want to get this thing sold. And then we talk to them about the importance of open houses. And I believe in open houses. My wife Sherry and I bought our first house at an open house, just driving around. And it's, it was something, we just saw a sign on the corner and we pulled down. It was on Top Ridge Drive in Gilman, and we pulled in there, and Pam, one of the RE/MAX agents that I didn't know, she helped us and we bought the house. But it was that easy, right? So I do agree that open houses do work. And if you notice that chart from before, about 7% of sales do come from open houses. Then I talked to them about, here's what we're going to do. We put this marketing strategy in place. Once we sign this listing agreement, here are all the things that go out. We have a customized marketing plan that goes out. We initiate the open house. We initiate the customized brochures, like all these different things. We get it out to local MLS, state MLS. We have New York State MLS. We go through all of these different things that we're going to do for them. And it all happens within 3 business days. We talked about our buyer in waiting, right? We've collected names and numbers and email addresses from people from Google pay-per-click to Zillow to Realtor.com, and we have them housed in one database, and we can cross-search that database to their listing. You might wonder, do we, have any more perks? And that's a conversation piece at that point, right? Is there anything that we might have missed on here, right? That's where we get to that point. And a lot of times we're like, well, no, that was pretty good. Did the other agent share these type of things and what they're going to do for your home on marketing? No, not as much as that. No, I said, well, they just had a brochure and pamphlet on some different things. Okay. Do you think that, by doing these things that we're going to be able to maximize your exposure and get you top dollar by getting it out to all the potential buyers that will buy your home based on this marketing I went over with this? And it's pretty thorough, right? So again, this is where cost is only an issue in the absence of value. Cost meaning commission, right? If you're just like everyone else and coming in with your yellow pad, like I mentioned, and coming in, with a brochure, just talking it, right? Because you have all this experience, that's great. And I'm going to say there's some really great agents out there that can pull that off. But the majority, I'm probably talking to the 80-20 rule here, right? The majority of the agents need something like this. And if you want to be paid what you're worth, then you have to show value, and value showing all the things that you're going to do for them versus this person and that person, because that person might do it for, whatever, I can't talk percentages on here, commission, but, that person might do it for less, but are they going to do all these things, right? And I can guarantee that if I do all these things for you, I'm going to be able to surpass whatever savings you're going to have on that little bit of an X commission that you took a lesser amount of, right? So, yeah, then I'll just ask them, any other things that we want to miss, any other questions, whatever. And then that's when we say, okay, remember the third option I said to you is about pricing. And that's where we talk about pricing. And before I come to this pricing thing, which I know I don't have it on the screen, let me just show you real quick. I give them a little education on what they should have. And you guys should take a picture of this. All about market value. What is market value, right? Let's talk about market value before I go into that triangle, because I want them to understand that market value and the true market value of your property today is based on today's market, not yesterday, not last week, not 3 years ago, not COVID. Okay, it's based on today's market. It's based on today's competition, today's financing, interest rates, economic conditions, right, locations, and buyers' perception of the property condition. right? If you want top dollar for your home, it's got to look in top shape, right? If you want top dollar, it's got to be in top shape. Don't expect top dollar and you don't want to do anything and the house looks a mess, right? You have to explain that to them, right? So I like to show them that. The other thing I love to show is the real market value of your home is not based on what's appraised for. It doesn't matter. It's not, the appraisal does not come into place, especially if it's a year ago or 2 years ago. It's not even worth what it's the paper it's written on, right? An appraisal is something that is opinion based, and I can get 3 different appraisers in here and they'll give you 3 different amounts. What's it assessed for, right? Absolutely not. Assessed value is usually a lot lower than what the actual market value is. Sometimes the other way, but usually it's a lot lower. So you're not going to go by that. What do you need to get out of it? You know, I have credit cards, I have this, I have that, my move. So I need to get X number out of my home for me to be able to sell. Well, buyers don't care about that. What your neighbor home sold for, that's one we had the other day. My neighbor sold for $705. Okay, well, that was like 6 months ago in a different market. 705 is not going to cut it. Now I'm talking about a Florida situation here. The market has shifted, right? The market has changed in Florida where pricing is coming down by anywhere from 5 to 10%. So what you paid a year ago is not going to be what's going to sell for today. Insurance amount, what's it insured for? What do you have in it? Hey, I put $50,000 in this home, so I want 50,000 more. That doesn't happen. Your personal feelings because you live there, that's not going to happen, right? So these are the things that we talk about, or based on the prices. Down in whatever. I'm moving to California and it's more expensive there, so I need to get more out of my house. Doesn't matter. So what you can control is access of your home, the condition of your home, and your price. What you can't control is the market condition, motivation of your competition, and the value of your property. So it's a nice little form. It's a good talking point. If you guys want to use that, feel free to use it. I'll give you the smaller version so you can take a picture of it. And then you can use it or make it up on your own Canva if you like. All right, let me switch over to the last document on here that I wanted to share with you is going back to that presentation, and it's showing you the price. How do we get to the price strategy? And we'll wrap things up here. Price strategy. I like to bring this chart out because I say, with pricing, again, I went over all those different things with you as to what true market value is of your property. We like to show you this as an example of what we want to make sure that we avoid. Our goal is to price your home at market value or below, because the percentage of buyers who are actually going to be looking at your home are on that line, or the majority of the buyers are just below that line. If your home is say $500,000 market value, true market value, and you say, well, let's just put it on the market for $550, we can always go there, right? Okay, we can do that. But now you just, you went from potentially 75% of potential buyers to potentially 30%. You just cut that buyer pool more than half by doing that. And this is why we want to make sure that we put it at or just below so that we can be competitive. We can get all of these eyes, not only below the line, but above the line, looking at it, and hopefully get into a multiple offer situation. Usually you can never price your home too low, because if you're not going to go with the first offer that comes in the door and you give that marketing time to work over a course of 4 or 5 days, you're going to know whether or not your price is too high or too low based on the situation. If it's too low, we're going to get a ton of showings and we're getting multiple offers. If we get no showings, then we know the price is too high. But this is really a great piece that we show on the strategy of getting these homes priced correctly, and they really understand it, right? So back to, once this is all done, I'll ask them if they have any questions on pricing. Great. Now they go into, well, what do you think my home is worth? And then that's a CMA conversation, right? And I'm not going to get into that today because that's something that we went over on our last call, where we actually showed them the data, right? We showed them the data of what was for sale, what closed, what was pending. We went over all the data and just said, hey, based on this information, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, where do you feel your home should be priced at? And then you shut up. And I wait, and I wait, and I wait. And then they scurry a little bit. And then they're like, well, we thought we can get $550 for the home, but now looking at all this data, yeah, it's probably closer to 500 or a little bit below. Yeah, you're probably right, right? Or you have some people that have the blinders on and they're just like, well, I thought 550 and I still want 550. Okay, where do you see that in the equation here? If you were a buyer, how much would you pay for your home? sometimes you're gonna have these tough questions. And you have to be careful too. You don't want to come off like a smart ass when you're talking to these sellers and get thrown out of the house. But you also want to be very direct with them. Like, all right, listen, I'm on your team. I want to get the most amount of money for you. Obviously, it means more money for you. It means more money for us. And we want to definitely get your home sold fast for top dollar with the least amount of hassles. But where do you come up with that 550 based on the information I gave you? And then, just kind of go from there. And then you can use the appraisal approach. If you can't come to an agreement, hey, why don't we get an appraiser to come in? They can give us a value third-party opinion, see if that 550 really holds up. Because if it doesn't, I don't want to be coming to you 5-6 weeks later in that process. Go back to that timeline, and you moved out, right? You got rid of all your furniture, you shipped it all to Virginia, and then 6 weeks later, I'm saying, hey, we got a problem, right? It didn't appraise, and it actually appraised for 50,000 less, and the buyer wants out, right? Or the buyer is not going to pay for it. So now you have to drop down 50,000 thinking you have that money in your pocket, right? I don't want to have that conversation with this. So that's why you want to get realistic with that seller pretty quick. All right, so any questions that you guys have, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Stay on here for as long as that we need to on here. But that is the listing presentation that we use. And again, the only thing I left out, one more thing, the thing I left out, and I took that slide out of it, was the commission, right? Based on other companies being on this call, I didn't think it was right. But I actually put what our commission is. Here's what we charge on the list side. Here's what we charge on the buy side, or you can pay out on the buy side, I should say, based on our new rules. I had to go back to our new rules here, but I give them now the listing side. And I said, whatever you want to pay the buyer is up to you, but here's what we get paid on the listing side, and I go over that. And then I explain to them, we have another document that goes over the rules back in August, the lawsuit, and what the new rules are. And we could put to be determined, they can come up to us, or we can give them an offer, or we could just wait and see how the deal goes, right? It's all negotiable. So that's how we use that, all right? So any questions on here? Trish, I know you're on the line with me. Trish is my executive assistant partner in crime, right and left hand. Good morning or good afternoon, Trish. Anything we miss? Trish, maybe she's not even here. All right, well, maybe Trish is not there. I see her mic that's muted on here.
I'm here, Willie.
There you go. Anything we missed, Trish?
I just missed the question. Sorry, I just stepped away from the computer for a minute.
Oh, you tune me out like my wife does?
No.
No, the question was just that we went through this whole thing, which I know, obviously you've been very involved and you've been on many listing appointments with me. And now to the point where Trish does it better than I do. But anything on this listing appointment that you can share with some of the people that are on this call today as the importance of making sure that they have an actual listing presentation?
I think something that I've learned from you too is that regardless of who the person is, you always do the listing presentation. I know that we've talked about before, like, oh, it was a referral from a great friend of mine, or it's a family member. I've been on hundreds of listing appointments with you, and you always stick to the same 14-step listing process and the same listing presentation, regardless of that relationship. And I think that's where a lot of value comes from it. And then we never really have any questions afterwards on commission or anything, because we've shown so much value.
Right, and it is true, right? Because we don't want these things to happen. And that was a mistake I made many years ago, not doing a listing presentation to a friend or a family member. And then throughout the whole transaction, it's the worst transaction because they're asking, what about this? And what are you gonna do here? Are we on the internet? Are we on, what websites are we on? Well, we went over all that on the listing presentation that you didn't want to do, right? So that's why we do it, because it's better to set the expectations up front and be clear, because clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Right, so we want to make sure that we're clear about what the expectations are moving forward. All right, yeah, one question I had on here was about commission. Yeah, I'm not going to get into commission other than it should be on the presentation at the end. You definitely want to put that on there for yourself. And here's what I feel is that I always got higher commissions when it was on there, and I see a lot of agents do the same thing, because if it's on the screen and it's there, then they just feel, okay, well, that's the commission. If you don't have it on there and it's just kind of like, randomly said, then it puts it up there for negotiations, right? But when you actually have it stated, and here's what my company charges, it's kind of like, okay, well, that's what they charge. I'm not going to ask them for lower, right? And I see a lot of agents, unfortunately, go low. They go low too, right off the rip, because they're afraid they're going to lose the listing. And that's not a good thing either. All right, you guys you work too hard, and we deserve it. We deserve to get paid, because this is a lot of work selling real estate, whether you're on the buy side or sell side, and you need to get paid. If they don't want to pay, then go find another client. But that's definitely something that definitely helps by having that commission on the listing. Yes, the Facebook page. Thank you for reminding me of that. Got another question here. What's the Facebook page, Trish? So that is, I can pull it up real quick here. Facebook. You guys need to go there to get the copies of all this, right? So we want to make sure that you guys get that information. I'm going to pull it up right now. It's a private Facebook page that we have. We have a lot of people on it. Of course, I don't have it up and ready. Here it is, Real Estate Blueprint Masterclass. I'm going to show you right here. Real Estate Blueprint Masterclass. There's Trish, there's myself, there's Brian. That's my old photo. We got to change that one, Trish. I think we have a new one.
Yes.
One of these cover pages. But in there, you can see there's last week we talked about understanding CMA and pricing. Wouldn't you guys like to know that, right? How to price homes, how do we price homes, how do we do the research, how do we talk to the client? Brian and I did this a couple weeks ago back on August 5th. So it's relevant, it's good information. Click on there and watch it, right? So we went over that. We went over the how to get listings. The week before that, July 17th, I had a big webinar that I did, 6 proven innovative strategies to get more listings. We went over home seller workshops. We went over geographic farming. I shared all my templates with you. Everything's there. You just got to do the work, got to do the push-ups, right? And unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. I guess fortunately for me, if you guys are in the Capital District and if you don't use it, then that's fortunate for me. But 99% of the agents out there won't do anything with a lot of this stuff. And I don't know why. It's execution, it's accountability. Sometimes they have to see it 4, 5, 6 times before they actually act on it. But I went through a lot of great stuff on there, and I will tell you that the agents that have implemented this stuff are having success with it. So it works. I'm not giving you stuff that doesn't work. It's stuff that still works today. Here's buy listings in a 14-step process. Brian and I went over that. So that's all on there. So go to Real Estate Blueprint Masterclass. It's a private group. All you have to do is just get invited or sign up for it. And Tricia will let you in, and you'll get all the access to it, and you'll get all the updates, and everything's right there for you. Okay. All right, so that's it. Great webinar. Thank you for having okay. So good. So I think that's pretty much it, Trish. What's the time? We under an hour?
I have 1:54.
All right, good. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and I'll have more classes in the future. We are going to have a real estate success summit that's going to happen earlier in the first part of January. So look out for that. It's going to be great. I got a great speaker coming for that. We'll have a couple great panels as well, and we'll get more information on that here over the next coming months or so. But any questions, let me know. And if you need anything, we're here to help. Take care. Thanks, Trish.
Thank you.
All right, bye.